Hello out there. How are you?
Doing well. How are you?
Not you, Adam.
No,
I'm talking to you.
that was very misleading. It's like when someone's walking down the road and they raise their hand to say hi, and then I always raise my hand, but it's never to me.
Did you ever actually ask them and say,
Was it me you're looking for?
"Welcome to episode 11 of the Threatcast." Last week we discussed how organizational insiders are using that secret corner of the internet to sell information or find skilled users that can help them sell that information. So this week we're going to cover how 10 million healthcare records were recorded as being on the dark web, stolen, placed on the dark web for sale. Adam, your social security and blood type information isn't safe anymore. What do you do? What do you do?
Well, I can change my blood type if I just get a transfusion of a different type of equal amounts. So I'm just going to do that. And then social security cards are pretty easy to come by. I'm not too worried about
Do you have LifeLock?
it. No, but the founder of LifeLock found out that wasn't enough. So
And if you change your blood type, what if you get sickle cell?
I, I believe that's only for certain ethnicities.
Also in this episode, we discuss how Microsoft is attempting to protect users against password attacks. And finally, we'll talk about how Apple is trying to make it easier for you to become an organ donor. So, you say you're an organ donor, and then the fact that you're an organ donor gets stolen from someone on the dark web. So it's just a giant circle here, guys. So go all in. I'm going to put my tinfoil hat on, and maybe I can think that Apple and big organs are working together to steal my kidneys.
Yes, the bigger organ industry is an unappreciated syndicate.
So, conspiracies and more. Today, you're listening to episode 11. So, Adam Blake is here with me. Hello, Adam.
Hi, Paul.
Why'd you laugh?
You just did the whole name.
What's your middle name?
Jammers.
Okay. All right. So, what do you say we jump into the first topic?
Let's do it.
All right. 10 million healthcare records being sold on the dark web. So, this comes from the website deep.web. It's a technology website that exists on the internet. And last week, a user from that website noted that they were having a cheery discussion over stolen healthcare records. Apparently, the hacker, whose name was the Dark Overlord. It's always
One
something.
word, no
Yeah,
punctuation.
it's one word. It's so creative. Exploited multiple health organizational RDP protocols. So the remote desktop protocol functionality. So remote desktop, as it may sound, allows users to use their computer, the one that they're logged into, say right now, to also log into other devices. So other computers, servers, whatever it may be, different rooms, different buildings. As long as the computers are allowed to connect to each other, they can, with the right credentials, connect to each other. So this was exploited by this hacker. I assume that he got into one of their networks and just found this exploit and was able to just jump to any machine that they want. I'm making that up, by the way, so it might not be true, but he didn't give out how it was exploited. But anyway, he got the data. The Dark Overlord is now selling this data. So what's in this data? This is, at least when it was reported, there were 3 databases. One from Missouri, one from Georgia, and one from a giant generic Midwest organization. But inside this data is what you kind of expect from medical data: allergies, diagnoses, orders, if you smoke or not, any appointments you have upcoming, prescriptions, family history, height, whatever. A lot of stuff that people might not want to share. You might not want to share that. Could be worth a lot of money. What I found interesting was, and this is a quote from the Dark Overlord: "Next time an adversary comes to you and offers you an opportunity to cover this up and make it go away for a small fee, take the offer." So,
That seems good.
yeah. So it seems like that these organizations, or this one organization that handles a bunch of databases, they were informed that this user had access and threatened to do something.
So,
And they did.
as a customer, right? So,
Yep.
Are we going to use names here, or are we protecting those not so innocent?
Who's innocent here, Adam? Are you innocent?
Very good. So the first one in Missouri is actually, I'm going to skip that question, is Midwest Orthopedic Clinic.
Okay.
Yep. So that's 48,000 patients from Farmington, Missouri.
Got
Now,
it.
here's the question. If I go to this institution, if I get my orthopedic care there, and I found out that they were breached, I'd be kind of pissed. But that happens often, right? I'd be even more pissed if I knew that there was the potential that I wouldn't have gotten breached if they just spent a sum of money, right?
Yep.
Especially if the hacker starts releasing, hey, I asked for 10K, but they don't value your privacy enough to pay the 10K, so I'm just going to release it, and good luck with that. Number one, right? Like, they have to, healthcare organizations have to announce when there's a breach of their services, right? The question is, they have to pay for each credential.
So would they want to report on the breach until they maybe they don't know the full maybe they don't, it's only part of the breach, maybe it's in progress. Why would they report on something that's currently ongoing when they don't know the full scope?
Well, I don't know. I'm probably the wrong person to ask this, right? So I would pay it, and then immediately buy. This might be insurance. I need to look at the laws. I'm not saying that organizations should do this if it's illegal, but buy cyber insurance, and then you talk to your board and say, "Hey, there's a potential breach. We might be able to keep this closed for this amount of time." But it's when you pay someone like a kidnapper, you get your good back and it's done. When someone kidnaps your data, or data naps, then you run into the issue of, as soon as it's out there, there's no reason, once you pay it, there's no reason for them not to release it, right?
Right. So
other than reputation.
You can buy cyber insurance, right?
Yes.
But what assurance do they have that the data would not be released after payment anyway? Right. So it's like, for someone that goes in and steals something, I feel like they are not ethically bound to be like, oh well, you paid me, so I no longer have this digital good that it just seems like paying it is, from the outside, it looks like something you would want to do right away.
Right.
It just say this is a lot of people, 10 million records. That's a lot of records, assuming each record is a different person, which probably not. But that's just not how it works.
Right. No, and I get that, but you run into the issue of, not only could you not protect your data from the customer's point of view. I'm not saying this is correct. I'm actually saying this is completely wrong. But from the customer's point of view, you're saying all of this stuff was stored in plain text.
Yep.
You don't know your jobs well enough to secure it, at least not in plain text. Like, if someone wants to hack someone else, they can do it given enough time and opportunity, right? Nothing is impregnable. But you couldn't secure my data, then it wasn't even worth, pennies on the dollar for you guys to keep it quiet. I wonder how much, and this is an open question to those who were impacted by this breach, report down below. But if they weren't willing to pay money to try to keep it quiet, right? And then what added security are they providing so that I trust you from now on, right? It's something the industry needs to figure out of, if we're going to do this, there needs to be some either quiet group or something that says the Dark One, the Dark Lord, whatever it is. Yeah, the Dark Overlord, sorry. Yeah, so there should be some reputation around it that says, theoretically, paying ransom makes sense if he has a reputation to uphold. That's the only way that works, right? But if Dark Overlords hit 5 other places and they give $10,000 and their data was never exposed again, then it's a worthy investment, right? So that's where his money comes from, is he's just a black hat pen tester that always wins. and then lives off bounties.
So are you kind of debating whether or not to put their resources into cyber intelligence over cyber protection?
I think there needs to be a group that says, like, that scours the dark web and says, this guy claimed to have this information. We found that it was valid. He does have the information, or at least a portion of the information, as he's not going to give it all to us.
Mm-hmm.
Here's how the case ended, right? So he asked for X amount, it was paid, and maybe you anonymize the victims of this. But if you had a reputation score for the attackers, then it starts becoming a value proposition to pay the ransom. And this is just, white hat hacking that you didn't know you wanted.
Again, we've discussed things like this several times, even over the 10 other episodes we've had, and it's a difficult scenario to tackle, especially when I assume that these places don't have nearly the budget to even care about communicating with this stuff.
Yeah, then maybe don't put it online.
Well, not wrong, but
or there needs to be some organization that, if we're not going to protect it when it's gone, right? So when the proverbial horses leave the barn, if there's no one who's going to protect it there needs to be a basic loadout for healthcare organizations to say, we'll protect all of them with a single very good password.
I don't think these ones were actually online. If they were
from the outside,
he got in through just a random host and made his way around. Or I'm not entirely sure. I do know that for the most part, medical records are required to be online.
Yes, in the certain system that is
right
secured by a larger organization.
Right.
No, something needs to be done either on the reaction or on the protection side, or else this is just going to keep happening. And it's the Wild West, and no one's paying attention.
I honestly do not want to continue to discuss these subjects just because they're they're increasingly common, and they're not unique, right? So
right.
This just happens over and over and over, and the solution is the same every time. But it's just getting the budget, getting the people, making sure everything's in place to prevent something like this. I'm sure this is an easy fix. It just takes too long. Too much resources. I just don't think it's gonna. I think it's just gonna be continually outpaced.
Right. Well, then maybe as consumers, we just need to accept the fact that you have a different password for every single login that you have, and just give your healthcare provider wrong information so that you don't get actual breached.
Yeah. So as a consumer, we need better passwords, and Microsoft is trying to help with that. Okay, so this is our next topic. It's a good segue.
That was a wonderful segment.
Microsoft is moving to work against bad passwords, and we'll get to that in a second. I just want to give a little bit of a background as to why they're doing this. LinkedIn was hacked in May with a reported 120 million usernames and passwords leaked. I haven't been told to change my password yet, so good job, LinkedIn. But Microsoft has reportedly last month taken a few steps towards figuring out a partial solution to our common password theft issues. Now, generally, if you work in an organization with any type of infrastructure in IT, you have to change your password often. You have to make your password complex or whatever, right? Password length, password complexity, expiring passwords, right? Those are okay, right? But they're basic. But the problem with them is people, and Adam, I'm guilty of this. I'm sure you are too. With these requirements in place, I'm making my password easy to write, easy to remember, and barely changing it each time. So humans are predictable.
Everyone I know that we've had this conversation, it is you have a root password and then you iterate every 90 days. And so you have to count how many 90 days you've been employed by a certain agency or every time they've asked you to reset it, it's, oh, well, 4 ago it was 04, so now it's 08.
Right. So password 1 is today. Password 2 is 30 days from now when you have to change it.
Correct.
So what Microsoft has done is they are kind of guiding you. If you want, this is in beta form right now, they introduced a concept called dynamic ban of common passwords. So how does this work? Essentially, what they're saying is they're helping people choose a password that's harder for people to guess. Typically, attackers can either use something called a rainbow table, which is just a giant list of common passwords, millions of passwords, and just hit against the database, or log in until they get in, or they just try to brute force accounts by trying popular passwords like I just said, password 1 or password 2, right? But what they want to do is create a reverse rainbow table. Well, it's still a rainbow table, right? But just work on, just kind of do variations on these passwords. So when you go ahead and type in password 1 in the account creation screen, it kicks back and says, "Hey, don't pick that password." And you get upset because you really, really like password 1, but you know what? They're doing it for your safety. I feel like this is a weird step. Like it's a good idea, and I've seen it before. Why not just require phrases? I guess that's a little bit harder to implement, but they have another function capability that they put out there, and it's called Smart Password Lockout. And what this is essentially, it looks like geolocation based password lockout. And what that means is if someone tries to log into your account and they're from Russia, or if they're from a different state, their session online is different than your session when you're trying to log in. So what happens is this user tries to log in a lot, they fail, they get locked out, their session gets locked out, but your session's still good. So your account is fine, it's not locked, so you can log in. Good idea. I think that's actually a good idea. So these two concepts they're trying to throw in there. Again, I think it's right now it's for Microsoft Account and Microsoft Cloud services. If you manage one of those, you can implement these concepts right now. Any thoughts, Adam?
Yeah, so a couple things. I'm going to start with the second one first because that's how I do.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a loyal listener to the Threatcast, in episode 10 we covered VPN and how you can make it look like you're in somewhere else. It essentially breaks their geo IP, both because the adversary can look like they're from Iowa, and the user might leave their VPN on and, watch some 9 Mets who won last night after going down 0-6, and then try to log into cloud to get some work done, and show up from another part of the country that they have never actually been, or from another country, right?
What if this is, let's just say I log on to your account from a computer next to you. So it's a very similar geo location, right? We're next to each other, but sure. I have a different session ID. I have a different session record. So if I go on Chrome and try to log into Microsoft right now, I have session 1. If you go in Chrome and try to log into your account, you have session 2. We're still next to each other, but you can still get locked out, but I can't.
So if you keep your computer on all the time, and you maintain the same IP address, and you log in from the same place with the same computer, and that's all you do, that works. But every time you reset your IP address, or you go to a different DNS, it's going to reset the session ID anyways. So for the 30 minutes that I keep my computer on while I do this, it works. It worked more for servers that need to authenticate, as those will have static IPs. But for the user who's logging in and putting things on Dropbox, you would expect different session IDs every time.
So Adam, what are your recommendations for a better password? It doesn't have to be what you implement.
So going back to the first the first question, part of this, I think it's good to say that you can't use stuff that's early on in widely used rainbow tables. Um, I think it's also interesting to say for all Microsoft products, you have a single sign on, and we'll put all the eggs in one basket, and that needs to be really secure. Or alternatively, if they have 10 different credentials and they're supposed to be different passwords and use the same password for all of them, throw them a not so anonymous hint that says, hey, we notice you're also using this password with the different sites that we have.
Okay.
Consider using a different password on every website you go to rather than, 5 out of 5 of our domains use the same password and the same login credentials.
Yeah, no, that's a good concept, right? So having some correspondence between their different accounts, different domains.
And
At that point, right, most people already have single sign-on implemented, but if for organizations that don't, it's a good idea.
Well, and the best suggestion I've seen, and this isn't an original thought by me, I have so few, so I'm not going to share them with you. But was the idea that if you use Office 365 or a pay per service like that, they buy like 1Password or EasyPass and just give you access to that and say, hey, please use this for our services. You don't have to use it for other services, but you have to use it for our services. You have to use a password clearinghouse for that. But you also get to use it for everything else that you do because, safety for everyone is better, right? If we make it harder for the industry to do this, then even if it doesn't protect our domain, it protects other domains, it makes it less profitable. Yeah. And we're also not the easiest to hit.
Yeah.
I don't know why that's not offered.
I don't know. I do like, so you mentioned like EasyPass, right? And there's a bunch of password manager applications that essentially just generate a giant password that is impossible to crack. And it's just, you have it stored somewhere, you copy it when you need it and paste it when you need it. You're never going to learn it yourself, but it's a great password. I do not use them right now. You don't use them, right? Do you?
I do.
You do? Okay. It's a great idea. I think that's one way to solve it. Obviously, dual-factor authentication, so having a password sent to your phone as well as the password you type in, that's also solves most of this issue right here. I think what Microsoft has done is a good attempt at increasing their password security. I just feel like they should just jump onto a much more future-oriented process beforehand.
And I've seen other domains and other organizations do the least effort possible, which is, it has to be between 11 and 15 characters.
Right.
And have 2 special characters and 2 numbers and 3 uppercase letters. And you're just guaranteeing that every time I go to your domain, I'm going to reset my password.
Pretty much, yep.
Because I'm never going to remember your special sauce for making a password.
Absolutely.
And that's so the organization can go back to their CISO and say, hey, we're secure. We now force this. But if you are a CISO and your organization does do that, check the password resets. You're going to have more than everyone else does.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Microsoft's trying. You know what? Thank you.
Yeah, good on them.
Thank you. And
just buy 1Pass and institute that.
Do that. I haven't heard anything from LinkedIn, though, about something like this. So, already unfavorable about them. No comment. No comment. All right, let's jump on. What were you going to say?
I was going to say the only people hurt by a LinkedIn breach is recruiters.
Ouch. Hope they're not listening. If they are,
call me.
No, don't do that. All right, let's jump to the last topic. Apparently, Apple is pushing for organ donor registration in the new version of iOS. Adam?
Yes.
Did you know that 22 people in the United States die waiting for an organ transplant?
I did not.
Did you know that according to the National Kidney Foundation, there are 121,000 people waiting for life-saving organ transplants?
I did not.
100,000 of those in need of a kidney. That's a lot of people.
It's a sizable amount.
So, how do we make this better? It's a lot of people that need a kidney, and I'm sure there's a lot of people that get in a car. There's 300,000 fatalities Okay, that's a lot. I don't think it's that. And I think it might be 300,000 crashes per year in a vehicle. I don't know how many actually end up in fatalities, but some of those organs are still usable, right?
Right. Yeah. No, absolutely. And on a serious note, this is something that needs to be addressed.
Yeah.
There's a
Agreed.
lot of really good stuff in iOS 10. Very excited about it. And this is one more step towards trying to use technology for good rather than giving you your Twitter updates.
Yeah, so
Which is very
users,
exciting.
God damn it. So users, if you have iOS 10, you can just, you don't have to go to the DMV. You don't have to send in a piece of paper to the DMV. You just click a few buttons in the health application on the iPhone, and if you do, hopefully not, but if you do end up in a car accident where you are no longer alive, someone can use your iPhone and access all this data without actually having to unlock your iPhone. So think of it like a wallet, right? You just turn on the phone, say what were their medical conditions, what were their allergies, medications, blood type, emergency contacts, and were they a donor? And I think this is a great step forward for making this so much easier. I think a lot of people, they go to the DMV, they might have reservations at first to say, I don't know if I want to be an organ donor, but when does the opportunity come back around that they want to, change that? I'm not going, if I had that idea, I'm not going to say, well, I'm going to go spend an entire day at the DMV, or I'm going to look into this online and see how I can do this. Instead, I just open my phone and just click a button.
Right. Well, and also in this update, which is very exciting for a multitudes of people, it also has the ability to flag if your blood type. It also has the ability to say, hey, I have this condition which might change the way that you handle my healthcare. Right. So opiate addiction or diabetes or even to the level of like deaf, hard of hearing, right?
Right.
If you're unresponsive, it may be because you're deaf, and the EMTs or whoever it's going to be can look and say, here's extremely high level medical history of this person, so you know what's up if they're unresponsive.
Yeah.
And that's very exciting.
Unconscious due to you get knocked out, you drink too much, whatever. This isn't so much just for organ transplants, right? This is just great for being aware of someone's health information without getting a little bit too detailed, right? It's a great idea.
Yeah.
So thank you, Apple. Hopefully,
Thank you, Apple.
hopefully others will follow suit, because right now all I can do is dial 911, look at my background, or take a picture, and that's cool. But we can expand to that a little bit, and let's hope that keeps going in the future.
Many excite.
When is iOS 10 out, Adam?
I'm actually not positive. I know that the beta is open for download now, at least for me. I don't know if that's really developer's release or not.
And you have an iPhone, don't you?
I do.
Is this going to make your iPhone really slow and they want you to buy the next one?
Likely. No. See, I go back and forth on this on a serious note. I think they just tune down the batteries every 2 years to force you to upgrade. But I'm starting to think that it may not be a conspiracy. It's just a stronger OS that uses more battery.
No,
and also lithium batteries, not the
yeah,
best lifeline.
Also that, yeah. I mean, you're using the efficiency of increased technology and innovation, right, to build a better product. You're going to, just say even making a cooler transition going from your homepage to your settings screen, right? It's going to, it needs more processing power, and at some point, right, that's going to hit a wall, and it's kind of gotten there at this point already. But again, there are other things holding it back, such as the lithium ion, right? So that dies over time anyway. So anyway,
being a liberal, I'm going to take this opportunity to blame the organization, the corporation.
Just put that tinfoil hat on, bro.
Hey,
Big
it's already
Apple.
on.
Big
Let's
Apple.
put it on if it's always on.
Big organ.
Yep.
If you enjoyed these conspiracies today, feel free to keep listening in the following episodes. If you have missed the previous ones, check them out. They're pretty cool. And hopefully for the next episode, episode 12, we'll be talking about certifications, which I know sounds excited, right? conferences, classes, right? What are the usefulness of them in cybersecurity? So taking a master's, why not? Our experiences with how they have benefited us, or were they a waste of money, a waste of time? What have we learned from them, and why do we love or hate them? I think this will be a very if someone's actually listening to this podcast and is actually in cybersecurity or is interested in cybersecurity, I think they might have some comments for us, Adam. Thank you, everyone, for listening to this episode of the Threatcast. Goodbye, Adam.
Goodbye, Paul.
Forever.
And always. Always.